Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we are unpacking one of Hollywood's most bizarre, most brilliant, and, let's be honest, most utterly unpredictable stories, the career of Nicolas Cage. You know, this quote just nails it, right? It perfectly captures his entire journey. It's been this career of just wild swings and bizarre bets, where you're never quite sure if you're watching a masterpiece or a complete fever dream. So you gotta wonder, how did this happen? To really understand the Cage we have today, the icon, the meme, heck, the genre, we have to go all the way back to the beginning. Before the blockbusters, before the internet obsession. And it all started with him trying, really deliberately, to escape the shadow of one of the most famous family names in all of Hollywood. He didn't just pick a name out of a hat, you know? He chose it. It was this perfect mix of the avant-garde composer John Cage and the comic book hero Luke Cage, which is just this weird, perfect combination that kind of signaled the totally unique path he was about to carve out for himself. And right from his earliest roles, Cage showed this extreme, almost dangerous, commitment to his craft. He wasn't just acting, he was transforming. And it didn't matter if that meant sleeping in a car to connect with a character or literally having teeth pulled for authenticity. In fact, it was Cher who really championed him for the film Moonstruck. When the producers were a little hesitant, she actually put her own career on the line for him. And her faith totally paid off. The movie was a massive hit, and it earned Cage his first Golden Globe nomination, putting him firmly on the Hollywood map. But here's the thing. Instead of chasing that stardom, he chased art. He dove headfirst into this long, kind of painful streak of experimental indie projects. And this is the period that gave us the now infamous Vampire's Kiss, where his totally bizarre acting choices would, decades later, become legendary internet memes. So, just when it seemed like his career was maybe buried for good, it gets saved by this tiny, bleak little drama. The budget was so small that they actually had to shoot some scenes guerrilla style on the streets, with the crew literally fleeing in cars after one take just to avoid getting in trouble. But his performance, which was fueled by months and months of intense preparation, was just undeniable. He had done it. He reached the absolute pinnacle of critical success. He won the Oscar. But what he did next, well, it shocked everybody. Okay, so with an Oscar in his hand, the path forward seems pretty clear, right? More prestige dramas, more critical acclaim. But instead of walking that path, Cage took a hard left turn. For reasons that still feel wonderfully bizarre, he decided it was time to become an action star. The studio just did not see him as an action hero. To them, he was the weird indie guy. But get this, Sean Connery remembered him from Moonstruck almost 10 years earlier, and he insisted. He told the studio not to replace Cage, and that endorsement alone launched him into a whole new stratosphere of stardom. The result was this absolutely legendary run. Over the next 2 years, you get this back-to-back-to-back knockout punch of The Rock, Con Air, and Face Off. That cemented him as one of the biggest and definitely one of the strangest box office draws of the entire decade. So now he's at the absolute height of his power, and he's getting offered some of the biggest roles in movie history. Neo? Aragorn? Seriously. And he turned them all down. He later said he just didn't want to spend years on the other side of the planet, away from his family. But, you know, what goes up must come down. And after that incredible peak came this sudden, steep, and financially driven decline into a kind of cinematic wilderness that would last for more than a decade. The reason for it all was painfully simple: money. Bad real estate investments, some really lavish spending, it all caught up with him. And he was forced into this desperate race to pay off enormous debts. So the whole philosophy shifted from quality to just quantity. And this conflict really came to a head with a single choice. He was offered the lead in The Wrestler, a role that was actually written specifically for him. Instead, he chose a $10 million paycheck for Bangkok Dangerous over a $1 million passion project, a project that would end up completely reviving Mickey Rourke's career. And then came The Wicker Man. Now, Cage later claimed it was all an intentional dark comedy, but audiences at the time, they saw it as the definitive turning point. This was the moment a respected Oscar winner became an internet punchline.
But just when his career seemed like it was permanently stuck in that direct-to-video bin, a really remarkable resurgence began, and it was all fueled by one crucial change. See, here's the turning point: financial freedom. Once he was finally out of debt, he was free to be an artist again. He didn't have to say yes to every paycheck that came his way, and he could finally reconnect with that experimental spirit of his early career. And man, did he come back swinging. He embarked on this string of strange and wonderful films, from the wild, psychedelic horror of Mandy to the quiet, heartbreaking performance in Pig. He reminded all of us, critics and audiences, of the unique talent that had been buried under years and years of B-movies. So after this wild roller coaster of a career, Nicolas Cage has now carved out a space in cinematic history that is, well, it's entirely his own.
He's not just an actor anymore, right? He is his own brand of cinema. He's a genre unto himself, beloved for the exact same eccentricity that once saw him kind of exiled to the fringes of Hollywood.
And what's so remarkable is how he pulled off this comeback. He did it without a single formulaic redemption movie. He didn't need one. He just needed the freedom to be himself again. Experimental, weird, and totally, completely one of a kind. So with Nicolas Cage, now he's free. The debts are gone. It's just choices. And that's the one thing we can always predict, that whatever comes next will be completely, gloriously unpredictable.